Okay, this sharing that I want to give you today is from anxiety to peace. How do you move from being anxious to a place of peace? I think the first thing for me is that I needed to stop. I was running so fast and so busy. I needed to stop and become aware. I don't think even I was aware that I was anxious. I don't think I was even aware what I was feeling. I was kind of running outside of myself in my role of being responsible and doing so much and holding everything together. So that was exhausting and tiring. So the big thing was being aware. I can remember as a young child, um, it wasn't until later on that I realised what I experienced in an encountering session was so true because I spoke to my mother that I was born into anxiety. My mother was anxious when I was pregnant. She was felt abandoned, alone, betrayed, you name it. And I had picked all that up, I realised. And the first 3 years of my life are just kind of darkness. And apparently I was very angry and cross. And then an auntie said, came to me one day with love and said, "Now I want you to be good," which meant I was obviously not too good because I was really full of anxiety. Anyway, to cut a long story short, that affected my life profoundly. All mum's anxiety I had absorbed. So that's one of the things you can be doing is you can actually have taken on and absorbed someone else's anxiety. Your mother's, your father's, you could be carrying it. And through the meditation, we'll work with that. But and just it's a good question to ask. Is this mine or not? To cut a long story short, years later, Dorothy took me through an encountering session, and I realised it was shown to me by the one who created me, the wonderful counsellor, the Holy Spirit, when she asked, "Is this Helen's?" And all of those feelings I had felt all my life and struggled against the feeling unwanted, didn't belong, anxious, etc. Immediately I got the words, they weren't mine. And I had this sense of absolute light flood my mind, my memory, my body. And I remember the fruits from that, the results from that. From then on, my whole life changed because up till then I'd often had felt a bit alone inside and I would be triggered off with that aloneness. From that moment on, that presence of light that filled that space and took away the darkness, from that moment on, I no longer needed or wanted people to be there for me. I wasn't needy. And I just felt an absolute peace fill me so I could just be in their presence, not needing, wanting, and actually be present to them and love them. I didn't want anything. I had it already. So that the awareness was a big thing. And I think the judgments are like a heavy, heavy weight on you. When I was judged as a child of being wrong, not wanted, and obviously not good enough, that's like a heavy, heavy weight on you. And you become anxious when you're in society. It doesn't matter whether you were being abused. It doesn't matter what the situation is. If you have felt judged by yourself, like I'm not good enough, it's my fault, I'm responsible somehow and I don't understand, I see that over and over again, whatever the situation is. And then you turn on yourself and you go, well, somehow or other it's my fault. That's judgment. We're judging ourselves. And we've already been judged by other people, teachers, parents, I don't know, people in our lives that call us idiots, put us down. Those judgments are like a heavy weight on you and they bring anxiety because from there on, and certainly in my situation, I was peddling like mad to try and prove that judgment, I didn't know it was even there. I just knew I was working so hard to try and prove the opposite, to feeling not acceptable, not good enough. And when that experience came from then on, all that peddling stopped. I could sit back and I could just be and I could accept myself. So judgment, awareness, judgments, I didn't have to start. I could start earning. A lot of Christians, unfortunately, and probably a lot of people, are often earning their personal worth and value through money, through what they do, through their performance, whatever. That's exhausting, and it really creates a terrible amount of anxiety, because what happens if you fail? Then you'll be a failure. That creates more anxiety. So there's a sense of protection and guarding yourself when you've been judged as well. That's exhausting. All of this brings more anxiety. I remember a woman that I work with only this week who I'll call her Jill, and she's not here today. And it's not too personal, because I've seen it in so many people's cases. And she had a situation where she had just seen her parents arguing as a child. She went back to her memory where her parents were at each other, and she remembered feeling so anxious and tense as a child. She could see herself in the memory, and she felt numb. And we often go into a traumatic place where we become numb. We don't feel anything because it's too much, the anxiety too much. What do you do when your mum and dad are arguing all the time? Not a safe space. She encountered Michael the Archangel. He came, and I know this sounds like fairy tale stuff, but he actually came into that memory. She saw Jesus as well. And that whole experience was really, she could see that it was her mother's problems, her father's problems, not her responsibility. And the anxiety just absolutely dissolved. And she felt safe, secure, protected. And this woman, by the way, had gone on from that anxious place from her childhood with the parents the way they'd been going on, not knowing, because she'd been alone, didn't know how to deal with it. She went into another relationship, was very, very dramatic. And that gentleman, unfortunately, is in all sorts of trouble. And he had been abusive to her. And that had created conflict. So it repeats itself if we don't deal with our anxiety and our fears and our feelings. And this can be done so easily now. Once upon a time, I didn't know how. I do now. And this brings us to a place of peace, with whatever the feeling can be. I certainly remember one of the other things you need to be aware of too with anxiety is you and I open the door to anxiety when we go into the future. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to know. We want to sort of sort it out. So we're not actually living in the present. We're actually living in the future. You can make draft plans, but the plans for the future are not going to make you any happier than you are now. It's all temporary. So staying in the moment, opening the door to the future opens the door to darkness. If you rely on that for your peace, if you rely on that to bring you a sense of security or safety, whether it be money, whether it be a girlfriend, marriage, people say, oh, when this happens, I'll feel so much more settled. When I've got more money, I've got a bigger house. I'm sorry, I want to use a word I shouldn't use as a woman, but it's rubbish. It's not true. It's here now, inside of you now. If you deal with your feelings, your negative feelings, release it, make space, and then you listen to wisdom within you, bringing his presence and truth, and you get the sense of fulfillment and contentment where you don't feel any anxiety. From that place, you can flourish. That place, you can be successful. That place, you can have relationships because you're not needy and wanting and demanding. It's awesome. So don't open the door and go into the future. Doubting has been one of my big ones lately. I haven't even been aware of it for a while. But I got anxious, and that anxiety and that feeling in my body made me wake up. I thought, what is it? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? I'm anxious, but what am I thinking? And then I said, please show me. Don't be your own counsellor, because you can easily get caught up in knots. And I asked the wonderful counsellor, what is it? What's going on? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? And straight away he just showed me situations, and I'd been doubting. And doubt, he said, when you stand, believe and do not doubt, and the mountain in front of you will be moved. when you believe. It's a gift of faith. And faith comes by listening. Faith comes by relationship. People come to me and say, I'm too anxious. I can't deal with that. It's too fearful. I can't go there. And I say, it's only related to a belief. It's only related to we'll only go where the wonderful counsellor will take us. And when we do, it's amazing what happens. Well, I said, what if we just stand back and look at that anxiety? What if we just look at it from a distance and just see what you're thinking and believing in it and see what the wonderful counsellor says? And I said, I can do that. So you can do that. If you find it too frightening to deal with your feelings, stand back and say, what if wonderful counsellor, or whoever you relate to, Jesus, Holy Spirit, Spirit of justice, stand back and say, you show me my feelings, you show me my beliefs in that anxiety, and tell me what you hear. It's listening to the truth that brings freedom from anxiety, and you experience it. It's an experience, and you never forget it. But it's an ongoing journey. So you've got these tools. It's got a little kit bag. Don't doubt. Don't go into the future. Make draft plans, but stay here, present in the moment, in the presence, one with the one who's got the power to really transform your relationships in your life from moment to moment and teach you where you need to change. I remember there's a beautiful bit of scripture in Philippians 4. It says, be anxious about nothing. And I remember I used to say, sure, I read that. But really, get real. Be anxious about nothing? How do you be anxious about nothing? That's ridiculous. But now I understand what it means. Be anxious about nothing. And this is the instructions. But this is what we can do when we're anxious and feel paralyzed and fearful. In all things, when you're off center, when you're anxious, stop, ask. You can ask the one who's given you this creation, who's given yourself. Ask in prayer, which I call communication, and thanksgiving. Now, normally people say, be anxious about nothing. Ask in prayer and anxiety. I don't know how many Christians I've heard, they're praying and praying and praying, or they're doing whatever they're doing, and it's all in anxiety. And that is, one is stopping the other and blocking it. So you need to pray in prayer, and thanksgiving is an act of faith to believe, to just make a choice to believe. I'm going to thank you till I see the results of this. And if you want me to change, you let me know. This is my sort of prayer. This is my dialogue. I talk like I'm talking to a person. Letting your requests be made known to your Creator God. And the peace, and I've experienced this. Is it there all the time? No. But I'm in the world, and the world's a place that's full of a lot of tension, particularly at the moment with COVID, and people not knowing what's going on and feeling like they have to know. And people are supporting families, don't have the income, businesses falling apart, etc. I understand that, but they knew how to go back to all of their feelings, their beliefs, and invited the wonderful counsellor and experience this peace, the peace of God which surpasses all understanding. It would guard their minds and their hearts in Jesus for the future plans when they have to plan, and they would have someone to work with. And you won't know that what I'm talking about is true until you try it. I didn't know whether it was true or not until I tried it, till I saw the extraordinary results when I was full of anxiety and fear and anger, and it just changed. So you got to get real. That's what I recommend. Get real about your feelings, your anxiety, your fears, your rejection of yourself, judgments, your condemnation of others. You can hate others and hate what they do and reject and judge what they do and yourself. But that's the doing, not the person. If you do that, I cannot tell you, it's like a lead weight that pushes you down. And if as you judge, you will be judged. Does that bring anxiety? Does that bring life is hard? It's hard to move forward if you're judging yourself. You can judge what you're doing and learn from it. And you can pray for your enemies. and deal with your feelings. These practical things. It sounds so simple, but it works. And the other thing is not to be reliant on the world, as I said before. Hatred, death wishes, I wish I wasn't here, separate you from love. Love is already present. Wisdom is already present. But we turn our back on what is already there if we only humbled ourselves and asked for a little help in those places. These are tools I'm giving you today. And you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are stayed on you because we trust in you. And again, I'm going to repeat, so many people say to me, I can't trust. And I get that. But I'm not asking you to trust. I'm just asking you to listen. I'm just asking you to allow. I'm just asking you to at least look at and see what you're feeling and thinking. And listen, and you don't have to accept it. Neither do you. So it's up to you. You are responsible for your own results, what will happen in your life. But if you listen to the truth and listen to the wise counselor, he doesn't mind that you're weak, you're helpless, you're hopeless, you don't know how to change yourself. He doesn't mind any of that. I know, because I've been there. He just wants you to ask and thank him until you see it. I did that for 3 weeks with one aspect of me that was really needed some change. Thank you for and what is it you want? Just stop for a minute. What is the one thing you want other than anxiety? Is it peace? Is it something else? You can ask for that to be released through you for 3 weeks and see what happens and ask in thanksgiving. In Deuteronomy, it says to listen to God's word. Now, I remember standing up in a group 35 years ago and saying, excuse me, I hope you don't mind if a lot of you are Christians, but this is the truth of where I was at. I find the Bible boring. I mean, it really is boring. But now I understand I wasn't reading it with the eyes. I wasn't asking for wisdom to speak through a couple of words. Or where do you want me to listen? I wasn't aware. I wasn't awake. I wasn't listening. These are the things that I encourage you to do so that you can come into this perfect peace. So it says to listen to his words so that it might be well for us and for our children. What good are we when we're full of anxiety? We become controlling. What are you doing? Control is based on fear, not love. It's fear. I used to base my stuff, I didn't know, but I was operating out of fear, not out of love. So be aware. Ask the wonderful counsellor. Have this chat. You show me. What am I operating out of? Fear, which creates anxiety, or love? And if you're not operating out of love and peace, you need to stop and take responsibility and be kind to yourself and listen to you and your feelings and your thoughts. Give yourself a chance to have a voice to yourself and your wonderful counsel. Most people don't. I wanted other people to listen to me, and I almost suicided one time. I was so bad and so distressed because I felt so alone and no one would listen. But now I realise the pain was so bad that I wasn't even listening to myself. So listen to yourself under the guidance of love. I'm going to just take you into meditation now, because that's enough. If you remember the awareness, give up the judgments, the yearning. Body pain is just a wake-up call for you to go into it and recognise what is causing it, how you're operating, whether you're pushing yourself, performing. Draft plans instead of relying on the future. Draft plans, but with wisdom. So let's go into this meditation. I don't know who you relate to and who you believe, but if it's wisdom, truth, love, justice, for me, I'm going to ask that spirit of, I believe it's the spirit of our Creator, our God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, wonderful counselor. I'll use wonderful counselor because I'm there for everybody from all backgrounds. I'm a Christian, but I am there for everyone seeking truth and wisdom and love. So just make yourself comfortable. And I'm going to ask the wonderful counselor to go only where it's appropriate today and to take you into that space where you are most anxious. So I ask you, wonderful counselor, to bring to their mind the situation, the person, whatever they're focused on that brings anxiety. Look at that person, that situation, and I ask you, wonderful counselor, you give them the grace to acknowledge all the feelings they feel around the anxiety. Just acknowledge them to yourself. This is getting present to yourself and being present to yourself. Feel the feelings, even though they are not comfortable. Might be anger, resentment, unforgiveness, hatred, resentment. Whatever the feelings are, just acknowledge them and listen. These lead on to the beliefs. And I ask you, as you listen to those feelings and allow and get present to them, what wonderful counselor are they believing and thinking? Because that's what's holding the emotion together. What are they thinking? You will show them. What are they thinking and believing about themselves as a result of the situation that's making them anxious? Just listen. Listen. Are you believing it's impossible? You can never change it? Listen to that weaker part of you. The good part of you is fine. The part of you that needs the help of wisdom and love. Not good enough. It's your fault. It'll never change. These are the beliefs. I'm nothing. These are what I've heard over and over again. Take what is yours. And be aware now, wonderful counselors, show anyone here if they've hated themselves or that part of themselves, or judged that part of themselves, or resented that part of themselves that is inadequate or not good enough. If you have, acknowledge it and then let it go. Just let the judgments go and make space for the truth. Let go of the expectations, if you have any expectations of yourself to get it right. Just let go of that. And if you've had any death wishes or wishing you weren't in this life, acknowledge it. And then let it go. Let it go. Let go of all. You can't have life and death living together. It's double-mindedness. Just let it go. Let those wishes go. You get what you wish for. Now in that place, hold the belief that you have about yourself as a result of the anxious situation. I can't do it, you're not good enough, nothing. Hold that belief that you have right now that is being revealed by the wonderful counselor. And I want you to listen to the spirit of truth, the one who knows the truth, who wants to release and relieve you and restore you. Show them what it is, your truth, that you want them to listen to. What is it that you would say to them now or show them? Just be present and stop and observe. Just be the observer. What's coming to your mind? Your mind controls your life and the direction of it. What do you sense? What image do you see? How do you feel now as you let go of whatever it was that was making you anxious? Just let it go and let the Spirit speak, the Spirit of truth and of abundance. Just let Him speak of support. And don't doubt. Just accept what's coming to you. Be aware of how you feel as you listen. Be aware if there's been a shift, or be aware if there's no shift. Some of you may have gone into a deeper memory of darkness, blankness, or a previous, in your childhood. We can help you with that later, but this gets you on the way to being released, relieved, and restored. So just be conscious now and aware of any shift or no shift, and gently, as I come to a close, for those who are listening to this on YouTube, I'm coming to a close now. You can contact on ask@agapeencounter.org if you need any further assistance, or go to the same website by the same name, agapeencounter.org. So I gently now come to a close as we finish this meditation. And thank you for listening.